Hello. Welcome back to My Best Campaign. This is Amanda Lee Smith, your host. I'm the CEO and founder of Monday Creative. Monday is an agency that's behind the insights, the strategies, and the creative campaigns that are making your favorite brands shape cultural moments. I love this conversation we have today. I talked to Chris King, who's the VP of Marketing at Outdoor Research. And I got to say, Chris really delivered on this one. We talked about a massive launch he led when OR introduced a totally new category. And he walked me through all the channels they used for the launch, which moved the needle, where they spent the most money, where they just got some crazy lucky breaks. And it all added up to hitting profitability for the category in a record-breaking 6 months. And that is not the norm. I think you're going to be really surprised by the two things that truly made this campaign fly. But before we got into all that, I wanted to know about something I recently spotted in Chris's Instagram feed, which led to a story that just really reminded me of the value of shooting your shot. This is more of a personal question. I was digging through your Instagram recently and saw a familiar, moderately famous in certain circles face, Jesse Itzler's face.
Oh, yeah.
And I was so curious, are you in Adventure Club? What are you doing with Jesse? And tell me about that experience.
I am not in Adventure Club, but just a very random story. My wife has been following him and Sarah for a long time. She holds Sarah a very high regard, obviously.
For sure.
She's such a beast. And one day I was at work and she was like, hey, I know you don't follow Jesse Itzler, but it's Sarah Blakely's husband. He's doing this rim to rim hike and he's going on about how amazing this outdoor research hat is. And like probably 12 different stories about like why it's the best hat ever made. And you know, when someone of that unpaid, straight up. Yeah. And so obviously, you know, someone with that kind of following, you can see purchases being made on the site, you know?
Yeah.
And I think just from a brand awareness perspective, we are, even though we're kind of a mid-tier brand, we don't have the same brand awareness as North Face or Patagonia. So I hit him up and I think it was Taylor who was running his social media at the time. I was like, hey, this is so kind to do. And let me at least send you a box of goodies, you know, just as a thank you. Because I think we have other products you'd really like. And that just kind of started this back and forth conversation. He's a passionate outdoors guy. And I think he is a product person. Like he loves to talk about product and loves to focus on what products are great, why not. And I think he's obviously an investor of products that he loves.
Yeah.
And, so a few more activations with him. And then, I just got a random email from someone that he works with named Megan Riley, who helps run the Adventure Club. And she was like, hey, we're doing this fun little thing out in New York. There's going to be lots of cool people there. You should come. Just get yourself here. And I was like, is this a spam email? What's going on? Yeah. And so went out to his lake house up in Connecticut and just had like a 3-day wellness retreat and just spent some time, you know, obviously with him and his team, but a lot of other amazing people up there. And it was great because I was at this moment with work that I kind of just needed to get out of the box a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was that. And just kind of one of those, you know, interesting friendships that evolve over product. And
Little reset, the payoff of having just like wonderfully engineered product.
Yeah, definitely. And his favorite product is, I would have to say, is an Old Faithful for us, which we call it the Sunrunner. And it's like a hat with the capes on it.
Yeah.
You know, kind of one of our more functional, less fashionable offerings, I would say.
But kind of being made cool by some of the ultra runners out there in the desert.
Very much. So that was, he's a really unique, hilarious person.
I love that you got to do that. That's great. That seemed like it would be just the right reset for this moment in time. Yeah.
It was good. Just lots of sauning and activity and, you know, just hearing everyone else's story. And it was cool.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, Chris, you have a really interesting journey into this current role that you have as VP of Marketing at Outdoor Research. And you came from the photography, video, production side of things. Now, as an agency owner, I get probably like maybe 3 to 4 emails a day from production companies, videographers, photographers. And I was thinking recently, in the current climate, I wonder how many of them might be thinking about what it would look like to go in-house and move into a more stable corporate role. What
Yeah.
drove the journey for you? Like, was this the realization of a deliberate plan, or were you just following opportunities as they came to you? How did you end up in
Mm.
this position?
Yeah, great question. I was one of those, production company owners who hit agencies up all the time. And it was always, grinding to get more business. And I did that for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And, quickly learned that I really loved shooting and I loved storytelling and I loved going to cool places and meeting people who thrived in certain places. But I just, I was spending a lot of time on the biz dev side, which I'm sure you do also. And
Yep.
all of a sudden it, kind of becomes expensive to be the one, pushing the camera button versus back home drumming up new business. And so though I really loved it, my wife and I were expecting a daughter, and she asked if I could be at home for a few years because I was traveling a ton.
Mm.
And so I felt like I had kind of reached the pinnacle. And, when I started that, there was a lot less production companies out there. And I think things just became more accessible from a camera gear perspective. And so I just was like, I'm going to see if I can find an in-house job where someplace that would make me really uncomfortable that I know nothing about. And so I got a job at rover.com, which was so different from everything I had done as kind of their senior content producer there.
Mm.
And that was, trying to get dogs to do things on camera is a whole nother ballgame.
It's a
And
tough job.
yeah, and being in Seattle tech was really interesting. And I think transitioning from a entrepreneur to a 9 to 5er took a lot of time because I think, as you know, when you own your own company, it never stops. Right. And then I remember those first few months of people being like, you just need to slow down, just chill for a
Yeah.
second, because I was coming in at the same speed. And that was great. And then, after a couple of years, let's see, right before the pandemic, I got a job as a creative director at an ad agency in Seattle.
Mm.
I was kind of reaching a little bit of a ceiling at Rover, but it ended up, magically working out because 2 weeks later, COVID happened. And of course, no one needed Rover during COVID because they were at home to walk their dogs. So probably a
Yeah.
blessing in disguise. And was at a paid social ad agency, which was a totally different kind of creative than I had ever really been around from a simplicity perspective.
Mhm.
And the idea of creating for people to click on paid social ads is a bit of a soulless job. And then it was also
It keeps the wheels moving, but
it does keep
it
the
is
wheels
soulless.
moving. It's like as creatives, we always want to find that next paid social ad that really, hits a ROAS of a certain level.
Mhm.
But I also think, all of us are wishing to create something more, right? And that was during COVID. And I had a team of about 9 people. And it was the first time I'd ever just managed people and didn't do any creative.
Wild.
And it was a bit of a therapy session every single day. And then it was my first ad agency experience, and they would bring me to larger meetings when we had to put out fires.
Mm.
And I would never go to like the green light meetings, I was kind of like the fire putter outer.
How did you earn that reputation?
I don't know. I think like I could really, being in creative, you have to understand that like, even though you think something is great, a client or someone you work with might think it's not great.
Yeah.
And the communication skills you need to get to the next step from there is something that all of us creative people work on their entire careers. Right.
Yeah. It's that producer hat. It's like, make sure everything on set feels super smooth no matter what happens. It's
Correct.
a skill, I guess.
It is. And I think that I could come in and be like, okay, well, I could understand why they didn't like something, but hey, why don't we try this?
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes at agencies, not everyone, but sometimes you only get to the, the directors on up if an agency might feel like they're losing a client potentially.
Mhm.
And I think the bad rap that agencies get is like, oh, we're going to go through this honeymoon phase. It's going to be amazing. But hey, we're going to move you to this team of new people. And then so we can focus on getting new business over here. And that combined with like the 9 hours of Teams calls each day just threw me for a loop in 1 year. And I wasn't really looking, but I was just trying to figure out like, okay, if I'm going to stick this out, like something's got to change. And got an email from a recruiter about heading up creative at an outdoor company. So I had one conversation. I thought it was either Eddie Bauer Outdoor Research, and had one conversation, and then like 6 interviews later, a little bit of a job change.
Yeah.
So long story short, right?
Yeah. One thing that jumped out to me that I think about a lot, I had a coach once. I think it was probably during COVID. I was able to really slow down for the first time after I'd probably spent 4 years building the agency. It was like a chill moment, and I always felt like I was doing something wrong. And my coach just had this moment with me, and he was like, Amanda, when you're used to doing 140 or 150%, 100% feels wrong, but just like accept that this is 100%. I can imagine that's how you felt going into that first corporate job.
Yeah.
It's a big mental adjustment to being like, I guess this is normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a lot. Like it was, let's see, 2021. So they had mostly just got this mask operation off the ground. And by creating these fabric masks, they created this whole other level of brand awareness that most of Seattle didn't know who OR was. Like only like the higher up outdoorsy people really did. And so I got in there right after that, and there was a lot to unpack and probably something I wasn't, at the time, didn't quite know how to handle everything, from like go-to-market strategies, which I'd never really been a part of before. And like, okay, well, there's some creative over here, but we also got to deal with paid social over here and organic social over here and the design team over here and the wholesale team over here and the D2C team over here. And it was just like, whoa.
Yeah. I listened over the weekend. I realized it was the second time I'd listened to it because there was a funny moment at the beginning of it that I'll tell you about. Your episode of the Backcountry Marketing Podcast with Cole Halbrun. There's a funny moment where Cole's like, how are you? And you're like, great, how are you? And he goes, great, how are you? And I was like, oh, I've heard this one before. But in it, you spent a lot of time talking about some of the big changes that you made. You came in and just like adjusted production budgets, like really got, scrappier, had to make some changes in terms of who your vendors were. And I was like, oh yeah, he's a producer at heart. And I wondered, was it hard to turn off your production brain and flip into VP brain mode at a certain point?
It was.
Yeah. Really, what was that experience like?
I think like I came in there and just wanted to be like a fixer.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, oh, well, if we need to shoot this, I'll just go out and shoot it myself and I'll just hire my own crew and go do it. And like that at the time may have been good because they were really behind on a lot of things, but long-term obviously is not the way to lead and go do it yourself. And if you probably talk to anyone on my team, that's, I would say, not one of my best qualities is that I need to like be patient sometimes and let other people get their wins, which is, makes you feel better than anything is when someone on your team reaches success. And so in those early days, I was really just trying to focus on what I knew best versus the things I didn't know and try and make those impacts. So yeah, it was tough for sure. And that podcast with Cole was that was like,
it's a while ago.
4 years ago, maybe. Yeah. It's interesting thinking back. I was probably pretty production focused because that was, definitely the main goal.
And it was still probably that really like heady time when just inventory was flying and you guys were ramping up still.
Yes, 100%.
So you probably had a lot to do in 2021, 2022.
Yes, totally. God, it's crazy.
Let's talk about OR. So Outdoor Research, trusted mainstay in the industry, been around since 1981, maybe better known in the Pacific Northwest than other parts. I'm not sure if that started to change. And they've been known forever for kind of hike and snow. But in 2024, you guys broke into a new category, which was mountain biking, which is maybe a shame it didn't happen in 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, no one can get any bike here then.
Nevertheless, clearly there was still a demand that you all were responding to. Can you give me any insight into how OR made that decision to step into a new category?
Yes. So when I got there, it had the conversation had already started about bike. And I think that we at OR are really good at spreading the paint as thin as possible. And we make so many great products for so many different things. And I think that though it's all made well, it can oftentimes be a detriment to us.
Hmm.
And so, and as an outdoor company, especially an outerwear company, your fall winter seasons are always going to be larger than your spring summer.
Yeah.
And I think that we are all trying to figure out how we can move the needle within sportswear in the spring and summertime. And so from an activity perspective, we have hike, which is amazing for us. And it's always going to be our number one spring summer activity. But every brand really puts things there because it's a bit of a catch-all, mostly because there's so many different ways you can hike. And we also had obviously some summer alpine stuff going on with, all the volcanoes that we have up here. We had kind of dabbled with some trail run a little bit, but that was, very trend driven. And so we were looking for an additional thing. Climbing was kind of on a little bit of a downturn for us at the time, mostly because the trend in climbing wasn't to really wear technical gear. And so I think we reached success, and then people are like, well, I just want to wear khakis and t-shirts and Nike Ducks. And so we ended up doing a pretty hefty customer survey and wanted to know from our best customers, what do you buy our gear for? And the number 3 thing was mountain biking, which was interesting because we didn't make any we thought we didn't make any mountain bike product. And so it had already been a discussion. Then the survey came in, then was like, okay, we should explore this, but we need to do it the right way. And, there have been plenty of outdoor brands that just make a mountain bike collection and put it on the website and call it good. And we didn't want to do that. We really wanted to spend, this was 22. We didn't release till it was 2021, didn't come out till 24. So just a ton of market research. And we wanted to figure out where there was a white space within that. And the thing that we really came up with was fit. Knowing that a lot of the main bike apparel makers were hard good brands making apparel. And
I don't know anything about fit.
They do not know anything. It was really interesting just seeing what a size medium pant meant to 30 different bike brands. And the differences in fit were crazy. And then the differences in quality were also really interesting. And so we started working really hard on fit. And understanding that okay, let's not make a men's line and then just repurpose it to a women's line. Let's make a women's first mountain bike line. Let's think about fit from not just one size, but a whole size run. Maybe we jump into numerical sizing for bottoms instead of small, medium, large. And the product team just really, really crushed it from a fit and material perspective.
I don't know how involved you were in that research side of things, but was that a thesis that you all had going in? Did you have a hunch that fit would be a differentiator, or did that purely come out of the research?
I think I didn't really mountain bike a ton back then. And I was like, man, I better learn how to do this sport. So I had, I kind of have a weird body shape. I'm a really big guy with a long torso and shorter legs. And so I had one brand that I liked a lot, but some of the more core mountain bikers on the team did have the fit thing as an idea. And out of all the focus groups that we did, the number one thing was fit. Then durability was right after that.
Did your product team lead those focus groups, or was it kind of a joint effort between product and marketing?
Product team for sure.
Yeah. It does feel like as a marketer, you can get so much valuable insight from those sessions, but often there's budget remembering my time in-house at a brand, there's budget allocated towards research for the product team. There isn't always budget allocated towards really deep consumer research for marketing.
Oh, it's expensive.
But man, the value of that is so evident when you come out the other side like this, right?
Totally. And it made me wish that we did that for every single product that we make, but there's not the time or budget to do that.
Yeah.
So, and when the first products came out, it was, beyond just the fit, we wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence on the marketing side as well, because the mountain bike community is a tough crowd. Yeah. Very low.
Yeah. And it's a real risk stepping into a new category when you haven't historically been known. It sounds like there was a reputation spreading that you guys did this well, but it wasn't something you'd ever invested in for your marketing.
No.
And you want to make sure it feels integrated with the rest of the brand and make sure people know about it. I think as a marketer, a launch like that, those are the kinds of moments where you really get to prove yourself.
Mhm.
You're not just this like cog that stepped into this existing marketing wheel. It's like, nope, this is something totally new and you have to be at the helm of it. So it's
Yeah.
like a really big
Here we go.
opportunity.
Totally. I don't
Was that
think I really
scary?
realized that at the time,
No?
yeah, of course. Like when we think about it in regards to our whole product line, it's a fairly small part of our business. And, we wanted to be sustainable there, but we really wanted to approach it from the aspect of we want new outdoor customers, because what we found in our market research was that people who mountain bike, a large percentage of those people did it as a backup to their snow activity.
Yeah.
And that was probably for us the biggest piece of learnings there. And it was also a high net worth customer.
Yeah.
So we almost used it as a bit of a fish hook, but not a fake one by any means. Like the product was great. And so that was a big reason for that.
Yeah. They spend money on gear.
Mhm.
They have a truck probably. They're like, they have the money for this sport. We think of cycling sometimes as an affordable sport. It's not.
No.
And-
No lift tickets, obviously. Well, sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah. But then you're catching them and hopefully converting them into a ski snow client customer. Yeah. This shocks me every time, and it happens way too often. A new business comes to us with a budget for a campaign. They're putting spend against it. They've already made the media buy. They're so excited for a big launch or maybe their first ever campaign. And when they send me their brand book, all it has is a logo. There's no personality, no perspective, no positioning. That's not a brand. That's a color palette. Before you even think about dropping budget on a campaign, you need to know what you stand for. What white space can you claim? How are you making your customers' lives better? If you don't start from a solid foundation of purpose or some core belief, you are throwing money away on a campaign. Sure, you might see some quick sales, but you're building on sand. There's no foundation, and you'll always be chasing the next sale. Brand building is creating a world and a system of beliefs that the right customers will see themselves in and get attached to. Like any investment, brand building has a long tail and it grows over time. You cannot cut corners. The team at Monday Creative are the brand architects who build that firm foundation with you, pulling out the beliefs that are already there, elevating that gold, and just sprinkling a little bit of Monday magic on top. If you know you need to do some building from the ground up, we'd love to hear from you. Find us at mondaycreative.co. So how did you launch it? What were the considerations going into a campaign like this?
Yeah, I think obviously we wanted the content to be really great. We wanted it to be approachable, but at the same time be aspirational, just the same way we look at snow. I would say even more than snow, a high percentage of mountain bikers are so far away from the top 1% of mountain bikers, right? There's kind of this weird gap of like, do I want to die or not? And so was obviously a big moment. And then one thing that was important to me was that we had a good, we could start a team, that would be an athlete team for us. And in this world, not every sport needs a team in the action sports version, but from a mountain bike perspective, it just gives product immediate credibility.
Yeah.
And so it was hard in the beginning to get even the conversations going around that. And so, we built it slowly, and then, kind of midway through the launch, kind of completed the 7-person team who has actually given us so much brand reach from all of their social media and all of their events that they do. It's like had kind of more of a halo effect on the brand. And so I think that that part has been great about it. But also from the wholesale side, one of the really big themes going on within wholesale is that, hey, if we're going to buy activity specific product, we want to buy it from activity specific brands. So sometimes it's hard to sell snow as an outdoor brand or sell mountain bike as an outdoor brand. You're kind of put at the second level tier. And so I think that first season for wholesale was exciting for some, but tough for others. Just tough to get in the door. But by the time that second season rolled around, we had, kind of built this athlete team that turned into a lot of Red Bull Rampage competitors on accident. And then all of a sudden, OR is on NBC,
Wow.
and like that was just this huge moment of like, whoa, that was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you eventually win over those pros? Like, how did you get them on board?
It started with, obviously we got a lot of no's. And I think that the way I pitched it was that we, first and foremost want to be a partner, but we want to be a really great, transparent outdoor partner. And I think that oftentimes in the mountain bike and snow worlds, it's hard to get a good partner within a sponsorship deal. And they can end bad. Communication's not great. And we also wanted to pay fair. I don't think we paid the most by any means, but we also weren't looking for deals either.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting how, we started with Damon, and then we got Georgia, and then Bass Van Steenbergen, and those were kind of our first three. And then Bass's brother, Tom, who's kind of, this legendary Rampage rider, saw his clothes at Christmas time and just called me, and he was like, "Hey, Troy Lee never returns my calls. I want to be with you guys. Like, I'll do it for free. I don't even need the money." And I was like, whoa, like, let's make this a thing. But it was after we brought on Tom that we then kept building the team with Casey Brown and Carson Storch and Kirsten Van Horn, and kind of built this group that knew each other really well, but also was just a set of really good humans. And that's the other way that we look for people is we want, sports one thing, but we also want people who really respect others, and can do that job really well. Because I think it's a hard job being a pro athlete, sports athlete.
Yeah. So you showed up as a great partner. You worked really hard to find the right athletes. What else went into the campaign?
We did a massive giveaway in the beginning. And the giveaway thing is interesting because it's probably got overcooked so many times by so many different brands. And, we're always chasing emails, first of all. And so we thought about what if we made this like no other giveaway? And so what we cooked up was finding a bike partner that would do it with us, that would give us some street cred. And that was Pivot Bikes, because we just really liked the way that they branded and thought we, could share customers very easily. And then in that same moment, we decided that we should be the head apparel sponsor for Crankworx. And that was the largest mountain biking festival in the world at the time. And it was like, okay, we're going to go do this and just make this really big splash. And so
that's got to be a big investment.
That was a big investment. Yeah. Huge.
Were you scared?
Yep. Yes, I was. And it started as just being an event sponsor there. And I remember we were at a executive offsite thinking about brand awareness. And I was like, what if we do this thing up in Whistler? It could be great from a B2B perspective, but also a customer perspective. And I was like, we could sponsor the Whip Off. And I called them while we were there at the offsite, and they're like, let us check. Let us see if you can be a co-sponsor with POC. And they immediately got back to me and they said, POC will not let you get anywhere close to that. And so our CEO at the time was like, well, fine, let's just sponsor the whole thing.
Wow.
Which was awesome. It
was almost an FU.
Yeah.
We're going to show up bigger than you.
Yeah. And so we went up there in 2023 and kind of as a, hey, we can show you what gear we have coming out in 24, but really to understand how the event worked and how to booth and everything. And there was a lot of questions about who is this brand?
So that was before the actual sponsorship happened. Yeah. It was just like, let's just show up small, do some recon.
Yep. And they gave us a good deal. And, we knew that if we could really understand the situation up there, we could really push hard, when we came into 24. And so with that activation that we did on the sweepstakes, so we got Pivot, we got Alaska Airlines, we brought in Crankworx, and our whole goal of this, and Dometic Coolers as well,
great partner,
was to build this ultimate adventure giveaway that was worth about, $30,000 at the time. And we shot, a guy on my team, Jake Fordyce, shot an incredible commercial for it.
Okay.
And that was, we did that right to start the opening of the season. And that made it onto every syndicated bike channel media from there. And
was that the hero moment for you, that commercial and the sweepstakes, or was there another content moment on top of that?
I think the hero moment was probably that year at Crankworx for us, because we'd been there once already. People knew us, people knew the team, and that was kind of the culmination of everything. But yeah, I think that moment we approached it really well. And one of our other partners within the Pivot relationship was Fox, and built a really good relationship with Fox and their team over there. But, their email list is massive, right? And so, I think we gained about 90,000 entries for that.
Wow.
But then when we've done the sweepstakes in the past, maybe 25% of those are new emails. And we had 80-some% new emails that were strictly bike customers. So we had this direct access point.
Do you think you had kind of an above average return compared to your partners?
Probably, because they have all the bike customers already. And and one thing we kind of knew that going into it. And so we wanted to make sure that we were very supportive on we paid for most of everything in the production and the payment.
You orchestrated it.
Yeah. And that, even though it's kind of not the coolest thing from a marketing perspective, it gave us this direct access point
we can never underestimate an email list like that.
No. So that was killer. And then we went up to Crankworx that first year, and we brought with us a lot of buyers from different outlets, Backcountry, REI, and showed them what we were doing. And that resulted in increased buys from there as well. So it helped kind of jump over that wholesale bridge a little bit.
Yeah.
And then obviously Crankworx does an amazing job of pushing brand partners and content and brand reach. Mm-hmm. So once we hit fall 24, and then we launched our mountain bike pant, which is probably the most successful of the collection. We had done an insane amount of work, reaching a small profit already within 6 months that I wouldn't have guessed that we would have done. I thought it would take us at least 2 or 3 years to do that.
Yeah.
So it was
profit within the first 6 months.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. No, it was great.
I want to talk more about the impact and the results, but I also want to dive in because I love how specific you're getting. I can see the kind of list of steps coming together if I were listening to this and thinking about a launch. You mentioned you brought out your buyers. Are you just saying you paid for their flights and you put them up and you brought them there?
We're going to plan this whole 4-day trip for you guys and just see how we operate and how, what we're doing in the space and make it a special experience.
I love that. It's treating your buyers like influencers and really just embedding them. Yeah. Talk to me about all the other touch points. So we've got the right team. We've got an epic sweepstakes. Mm-hmm. You've got a big event sponsorship, getting in front of your buyers. What about all the just daily touch points, email, social? How did you think about flowing that all out to those ongoing pieces?
It was challenging too, because we didn't really want to forget about all of the successful things that make the brand great, right?
Yeah.
And so we had to stay focused on when and how we were promoting, but having enough content, in the bank was also key to keeping it fresh, while also making sure that, we had it in different temperatures and different habitats and, different people at all times. Thankfully, some of our snow athletes are also incredible mountain bikers. So we were able to kind of grow that group of people in a really nice way. And also get other people posting about the brand, whether that was Free Hub or Pink Bike or Bike Mag or Single Tracks, and really hitting that outdoor PR side of it hard too.
Yeah.
Because I think, what do they say now? You got to hit someone 10 times, with ads or content before they buy. And so for that season, it was important that, we didn't just stop after the launch. It went all the way through the end of the year. And so just that repetitive content play, but we had to be selective because, we had a couple other really big launches that year, new rain jackets and new snow stuff. And it's a tough thing to balance everything. And, the old head of product used to always say that, you really can't take care of all your children the way you want to when you have this many SKUs. So, yeah.
I don't think consumers know the battles they go on internally at brands to be what content's going to get to go out on social this week?
No, it's so
what product are we spotlighting?
Yeah. And it's so, when we make that decision, and I know that OR is oh, I wish that we would do more of this, or someone says, I wish we would do more of that. And the content on social media that people engage with is the content that is new to them or exciting, right? Yeah. And so we can show someone hiking with a pair of our Feroci pants, which is one of our most successful product pieces, but is that as exciting as the fast movement of mountain bike and the new stuff that we have over here? So it's a balance for sure.
Yeah, that balance of newness and the good old juggernaut sellers.
Yeah.
It sounds like the big investment was probably the Crankworx sponsorship. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
And it sounds like that was maybe an impulsive decision. But I did have a question about how do you decide where to allocate resources? Is it a lot of gut? Is it going off past data? Mm-hmm. How did you decide where to prioritize funds?
I think there's so many great playbooks out there. of what works and what doesn't. And I think that there are things that, you have to do, and there are things that you get to like test with, in the mountain bike world. It's smart to have some sort of a homepage takeover video or PR launch on Pink Bike, but they're one of the hardest customer groups to get to activate. But it's kind of like you just have to do it because it's part of the game.
Yeah.
And then on the Crankworx front, we were really focused at that time with brand awareness and like, how do we move this needle, which is, to really successfully move it is a multi-million-dollar project. And at the time we didn't have that. And so it was like, how can we utilize current campaigns to push that needle a little bit? And the thing about Crankworx is that it's in Whistler, and it is in a very activity centric part of the world for runners and bikers and skiers and snowboarders and hikers and everything. And so
and tourists who just want to spend money.
Correct. Yes. and so with that sponsorship of Crankworx, which was not insanely expensive in the grand scheme of things, but it was still a big deal for us to put that into an event. We thought that we would be touching customers that were far beyond mountain bike as well. So it was kind of a combo deal for us that people maybe they didn't even know who we were at the time. And so, yes, fully helped on the mountain bike side, but I also think pushed the brand to 100 other places too.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about what happened. You said you reached profitability in the first 6 months. Were there any other big moments where you're like, oh, this worked, we did it? Can you think of any moments?
Yes, totally. So that first in 24, we had, Tom had just joined the team. We knew he was going to go to Rampage, but I still didn't really know what that was all about. And, I'd watched it on TV a couple of times. I didn't know the whole grand scheme of things. And I really didn't know his history there. He was coming back from major injury, multiple major injuries at the time. And then it was also the first year of women's Rampage, which was like the coolest thing ever to be a part of. But we didn't have an athlete in it at the time of announcement. And then because, a few of the women were hurt in practice, Georgia, who was our female athlete, got called up to be an alternate. And so, which was just like, it was so special because that road for the women to get there, I think, was a really complicated one. And it was interesting how the athletes themselves had their POV, and it was interesting how the general public had their POV and how different those two POVs really were, And so then all of a sudden, we were down there, we got there to watch the event, and Georgia just came out of nowhere and like just locked down a third place finish at the first women's mountain bike Rampage.
Wow.
And so that was just so cool. And like, it's like very like proud dad moment situation for me. Cause I was just like, I have a daughter too. And you want to see these women's sports get at the same level as the men's, but something like Rampage, that was a whole different level versus, playing soccer or something like that. And so that was great. And then Tom, he was coming back from injury and ended up going, doing this trick, which was like this massive, massive front flip. And it was probably the craziest trick that was done that weekend there. And it ended with a 4th place, but it ended up being this like huge driver of engagement because no one felt that was deserved to him. And at the time we'd made him this all white camo OR kit, which was really cool. And again, that just like put us on blast from a social media perspective, and just tracking the reach through that within social was, numbers that we'd never seen before.
Yeah.
And so like that thing just kind of capped the end of the year of like, wow, this outdoor brand has gone a step further than others in the past. And not only do they have like a great team, the content's good, Crankworx sponsor, but the product was the main foundation of all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The like virality potential of going deep into action sports is just that much more, I guess.
Yeah. It just
so visual.
Yeah. It touches that non-endemic space a lot. And so that was cool. It was fun to see that. A lot of things happened that weren't my brainchild by any means. Like there was a lot of opportunity, and a lot of people just did really, really great work. It was still to this day at OR one of my favorite, cross-functional things that we've done as a team.
Yeah.
And it's just tough to do that. Yeah, it's tough to win doing something like that, over and over again.
That must have felt great.
Yeah, it was fun. Where do we go
So-
next? That was what I was asking myself. What are we going to do next?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you that too.
Okay, great.
Something you've mentioned that OR did really well in this launch was hitting that sweet spot of accessible and aspirational. And historically, I think OR is like a premium product and really focused on performance and functionality. How did you try to hit that middle ground or stay, veer accessible when that hasn't always been the brand positioning?
No, it hasn't. Back when I was younger in college or high school, it was very much like core lords only, small, medium, large sizing. And at the time, it was a very hot moment in outdoor at the time around inclusivity, around diversity, and reshaping how brands were coming to the table to be more of an inviter than hey, you can't play here for some reason. And I've learned a lot of lessons in that space or in working through that it's a really delicate place of authenticity.
Yeah.
And, just because you put someone on a picture, just because you donate to this nonprofit, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing the job that you should do. And so within the mountain biking space, we were very aware that no human is going to go ride Red Bull Rampage beyond those, beyond the group of 50 people that could do it. Right. Yeah. And so we wanted to make sure that our content was really trail driven. And then at the time we were also working on our inclusive line for women, and which was a really cool part of our DEI focus during that time. Because I think it was actually hey, as a brand, we're actually going to do this, and we're actually going to make something that says inclusivity. It takes a ton of time. And then that first year in mountain bike, and now to this day, we offered inclusive sizing for women in mountain bike.
Yeah. Which
it's a really hard middle ground to be, because you want to say, oh, we're the best mountain bike brand, but we also, want to let as many people into the sport as possible. And so you have to really tread that line in a space that feels authentic and not trying to pull the cover over anyone's eyes. So that was what we did. And I think from a content perspective, yeah, of course, it's fun to see Georgia dropping 40-foot cliffs at Rampage, but also showing a beautiful shot of someone at a trail that, I would go ride was just as important, right? We had to get the weekend warrior in there.
Okay, great. Well, let's come back to that question about what's happening now. Where are you focusing your energy? What's getting you excited and lighting you up that you're working on right now at Outdoor Research?
Great question. We're still on that brand awareness track. Yeah. And finally, we had the Crankworx thing, but oftentimes, we would run into some issue within the industry. Each fall, we were getting ready to launch this brand awareness campaign. I just remember the day that the tariffs dropped. And it was well, that budget's going to disappear, and it did. Or when PFAS happened and we had to blow through all of this inventory at discounted pricing because it was going to be illegal to sell. Yeah. And we'd been overshadowed by things outside of our control. And I think a lot of brands have. And so right now we are working on probably one of the largest brand awareness campaigns that we've ever gone down the road of doing. And one of the coolest things about it is that we've built a 3-year strategy around it. Okay. And I think that though it is a challenge right now, there's so many different ways to spread that paint, as I've said in the past. And, it's do we invest in YouTube? Do we invest in events? Do we invest in visiting more stores? Do we invest in print? Do we invest in digital out of home? Or do we invest in regular out of home? Or do we be really regional specific? Or do we try and do national? Or do we invest in podcasts? And you can spend $1 million really quick. And I'm not sure that it works doing it that way. And so right now, the thing that very much excites me is going down this path of understanding what pushes the needle for OR. And I think I'm learning so much doing that, because in today's campaign and ad world, it's it's not as simple as as it used to be. And understanding, we're working really hard to understand our customer better every day. And so the hope is that during this 3-year strategy, we can push the brand to new places, because through customer studies we've done in the past, it is the number one thing every time. And countless people say it on Reddit or within these customer studies. You can get the hands on OR gear, our batting percentage is very high.
Oh yeah.
Of purchase, right?
Yeah.
And so we have that faith in the product already and the faith in the brand. It's like, we just need to get that radio signal a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about that.
My brother-in-law was on the OR climbing team years and years and years ago. And then he had his pro deal for a long time after that. And so my sister and him, like that's their gear closet. It's all OR, and it has truly lasted. Like, they swear by it. They're believers and evangelists.
It really does go. It's like, yeah, I mean, I've loved, getting stuff from my friends and family, and they're like, man, I wish I knew about this brand earlier. Like, it's not just gloves and gaiters.
Yeah, it's true. A 3-year brand awareness strategy, though, that takes patience and an investment, and it takes real buy-in at every level of the business. And as a marketer, you probably get it. Was it hard to get everyone else on board to be like, we're just going to go all in on awareness for 3 years, and it's going to take us 3 years to hit this goal? Like, was that a hard sell?
I would say in most cases it probably would be. But I think that the entire executive team knew that so many things were coming together that, like, hey, this is the last. I mean, it's probably never going to be the last thing, but there was major exec buy-in in it. People were craving it, right? And we were hearing it from every platform, every wholesale buyer, every team, And so I think the hardest thing for us is going to be what the brand looks like for that. And I think within the outdoor space right now, we're at a really interesting place because, us included, this comes from COVID, was, athleisure was everything, right? We were wearing sweats every day, or tech joggers, or, performance tees and all this. And we invested heavily in that stuff. And coming out of that, it made our sun protection a very successful line of business for us. But that momentum turned REI into like almost a non-technical store anymore. Like, you're like, all I see in here is, Vuori and Lululemon.
Yeah.
That was never the case, And so it is a bit of a drug, turning those high unit products and over again. And it's hard to, if you make a really good 3-layer Gore-Tex shell the way we do, the customer doesn't really need to come back the next year and buy another one.
No.
Right. And in fact, we have an infinity warranty on it. So there's really no need to buy another one.
Yeah.
So but right now, I think what's happening in the outdoor industry is, like, we are figuring out what the difference between outside and outdoor is. And though outside may be more sustainable, maybe, I think that retail and customers are now looking for these brands to not be the touch-all for everything.
Yeah.
They don't want to have a one-stop shop for their lifestyle product and their technical product.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see a lot of these, especially maybe older brands that have been around for a while, kind of go back more into that technical space.
Yeah.
And I think that is an option for us because that's where we've built brand awareness in the past. But I do see, we do a lot of things really well, and maybe just getting the brand in front of people in any way we can is the best decision. So I think that for us as a team, deciding on how we show up is going to be the biggest conversation at the table.
Yeah. There's always I think about brands that are really core focus, like Arc'teryx, for example, another brand known for great technical product, but then they have Valence as their more lifestyle brand. So there's always do you start kind of like a sub brand that focuses more on that lifestyle side of things, or do you just focus on core? That's a tough decision.
It is. And I think, everyone on our team knows this, but I just want to embrace the, more of the technical side that we did, and not trying to be someone that we're not.
Yeah. And
I do think there's ways to show people what you are that don't know about the brand, that of all this amazing stuff that we still make. And it often doesn't get the first look because, we have a huge sun business, huge hiking business. And most people don't know that, we do make amazing snow gear too, or amazing alpine gear. And so we have so much customer loyalty in those spaces. We haven't really harnessed it yet.
Yeah. All right. A few questions that I always like to ask every guest before I wrap up. 3 more. So one is, you're an outdoorsy guy. These don't have to be outdoorsy brands, but what are the brands that you always look to for inspiration and always have your eyes on?
Oh, great question. Gosh, it's ever evolving all the time. Mostly because I want to see what like our direct competitors are doing, but also like I want to find new things out there. I think it's hard to like not look at Arc all the time. They make such good stuff, and their design centric strategy is so cool. And like, they, I feel like, have the budget to do what every other outdoor brand wants to do. Have movie tours, have on snow activations, sponsor, NST and do all this crazy stuff. So like they're one for sure. I think it's more of a store, but I really like what Huckberry does.
Yeah.
Obviously they're famous for the YouTube show, but I love the way that they have like turned a men's online store, which they now sell women's too.
Yeah.
But they built such a cool brand around that. And I love the way they do their email strategy. And it's not, I need to sell you this right now. It's like, hey, look at all this cool stuff. Yeah, you might click on it and go away from the site, but we're the provider of that.
Just a plug, we have a whole episode with Danny Siegel, who was their first creative director, all about how they got there.
Oh, sweet. I'll listen to that for sure. Yeah. So I mean, they have built that whole atmosphere there. And I think that's tough to do. They did a really good job. And then I used to be a golfer back in the day, and I really like Malbon a lot. I don't know if you've ever checked out their stuff, but I think...
Not a golfer, but I'm going to put it on my list because golf is having a moment. They're doing interesting things right now.
It is, and they've brought like urban golf into the mix and do collabs with Nike and Fendi and Gucci and like all these crazy brands, and they've now turned golf into like not an old white guy's deal.
Yeah.
And so I think
like
that's
the first twinges of fashion are coming into golf finally.
Correct. And they do a really cool job. Yeah, I like their stuff a lot.
All right. Are there any campaigns you've really loved recently?
Direct competitor of ours is Mountain Hardwear. Last year, it can be such a gamble to do this, but they developed a new snow kit called the Methogen, and top of the line snow kit. And they pushed that thing so hard throughout the entire winter. And I know that from a brand perspective, getting buy-in to focus on one product like that is definitely niche, can be scary. And I'm not sure how they did with it, but man, I saw that thing everywhere, whether it was at Evo, whether it was on paid social or organic or newsletters or via athletes. And so I just really respected that move that they did there. And even if it didn't work, it just showed that, hey, like they probably hit me 10 times with it. That at the time, if I didn't work for OR, I probably would have bought one.
Yeah.
So I thought
Matt Verback, who runs marketing over there, is on my queue of guests. He and I have been talking for probably 2 years, but
you should ask him.
He feels a little shy to be on the podcast. But I'm going to use this to convince him that he needs to be on and come tell that story.
Yeah, you should. I thought it was awesome, and kudos to that team. They crushed it.
Yeah. Okay, last question for you. What is the best piece of brand or marketing advice you've ever been given?
Oh, man. Gosh, I have to think back on that one. Man. I think it's so, especially in the outdoor space, it's really hard. We all have jobs that are very coveted, because I think from the outside, it just looks like we play outside all day and get to do all this cool stuff, right? I'm really good at being a desk jockey, I'll tell you that. But I think one of the things that someone told me was that, in order to like get there, no one's just going to give it to you. And I remember when I was, reaching out with my production company to work with these brands, I'd be like, hey, check out my portfolio. Now getting those myself, you're just like, I don't have time. I don't even know who you are. This is hard because we have all these other people who work with us that are great. But I remember a mentor of mine saying, it takes probably 20 more minutes, but send people a concept that would help their brand versus saying, check out my portfolio. Yeah. And I started doing that, and it resulted in, not a million jobs, but I started to get callbacks. And then from that note, I started shooting portfolio pieces on my own of what I thought a job could look like. And I think when you're young or you're just getting into that career of content, you're not going to start out with the outdoor research campaign.
No.
And being that person that reaches out to brands with content already in the email, I've gotten 2 of those since I've been here. And each time it's resulted in a piece of communication. Going that extra step and trying to learn without being paid is a tough one because we all have to make a living. Yeah. But that was probably the best advice I ever got. Yeah, I love that. It's probably great advice for agencies too. Yes, it is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. All right, Chris. Cool. This has been great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Absolutely. That was Chris King. He's the VP of Marketing at Outdoor Research. Now, if you're like me, you're probably listening in the car or at the gym, but if you like your podcast better on a screen,
we've got some good shit for you. Our incredible producer, Emily Heibeck, has been really upping the ante on our YouTube videos. On this podcast, we talk a lot about insider things, and maybe you're a visual learner. Well, she's adding a ton of visual context to these episodes on YouTube, and it's totally worth watching. Also, it really helps us if you like our content and subscribe or follow. So if you're a fan of My Best Campaign or of Monday Creative, my agency, or of me, open up Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube, wherever you're listening, and make it official with a follow and a review. We really appreciate it. All right, onto the credits. This episode of My Best Campaign was brought to you by Monday Creative and is hosted by me, Amanda Lee Smith. Emily Heibeck, as mentioned, is our incredible producer. Our sound engineer is Andrew Bagazbas, with support from Garrett Matthews, and our theme music is by Shimon Machida.